Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us continue with the chapter Reproduction in Animals. In the earlier session, we have studied about the male reproductive system, right? Initially, I explained that what is this reproduction? It means the production of the new individuals from the existing ones of their own type. Right, and then I just explained that there are two modes of reproduction depending upon the involvement of the sexual parts of the body. Right, so it is sexual and asexual. Now, in sexual reproduction, of course, there exist two different types of sexes, that is male and the female. So definitely there are two different reproductive system in animals, that is male reproductive system and a female reproductive system. Now, if I'm saying in animals, then my dear students, it is not necessary that it is present only in the animals. Even in the plants, male and female reproductive parts are present, right? So don't get confused with that particular point. Now, in the earlier session, I explained the male reproductive system and how it produces the sperms. In today's session, I'm going to discuss about the female reproductive system, and then you will come to know that what are the different parts and how they are helping in the production of the ovum. Right, and then of course when the sperms and ovum are present, the sexual reproduction proceeds with the fertilization, that is the fusion of the male and the female gametes. But prior to that, of course, we need to understand about the female reproductive system. The system that produces the female gamete, that is the ova or the ovum, that type of system is known as the female reproductive system, right? And this we are studying in context with the human beings. So in human beings, you can see this picture here in the human beings of female reproductive system, and you know what are the different parts of this particular system? Female reproductive system is comprised of a pair of ovaries, then there is the oviduct, and there is the uterus, right? So let us understand all these parts with the help of this particular diagram. Now you can see that there are some other parts also which are labeled here, right? So my students, these three parts that we have highlighted here in this text, they are the most important part, and of course the other things that are labeled here, it is not so that they are not important. They are equally important. So now as we go through this particular thing, and let us discuss so that we can understand the basic concept about this particular thing. Right. So the very first part written here is the pair of ovaries. You can see that these structures are present here. These particular somewhat oval shaped structures, they are known as ovary. And how many such structures you can see here in the diagram? Of course, two, right? And in our body, do you know where is the location of these ovaries? How to understand that exactly where it is present? So students, these ovaries, they are present in the lower abdominal side. Fine. And on left and right side both. Beside that, they are attached to the external uterine wall. See, this is this triangular structure present here in this particular part. This particular part is known as the uterus, and towards the outer wall you can see this thread-like structure, or actually the this filamentous structure that is holding the ovary and is attached to the uterus. Fine. Then this particular ovary, they are actually in contact with another tubular structure which is known as the fallopian tube. Now, as I'm saying that they are in contact with each other, and you can see that here in the picture also. But they, they are not exactly touching each other. There is some gap in between. Right, but of course they are receiving the ovum. This fallopian tube is receiving the ovum which is produced by the ovary. So what should happen now? The ovary it is producing the ovum, which is released out of it and is actually entering into the, or is received by this structure that is known as the fallopian tube. Now at this end of this fallopian tube, they are somewhat having funnel shaped structure, and in this this funnel shaped structure there are some finger like projections. They are somewhat fimbriae like structures, right? And those fimbriae like structures, they actually help in sweeping the ovum produced by the ovary and captures it, and then it transfers it into the fallopian tube. So once these ovum are produced by the ovary, they are transferred into the fallopian tube. You can see this small structure here. This is basically, it is actually the ovum. Fine. Now these fallopian tube, they are present on either side. Right, they each ovary is transferring is in contact with these structures on either side, right? And in the middle, they are now they are getting merged with each other. Fine, and after merging together, they will follow towards the downside, right? So this structure, which is this horizontal tubular structure, is known as the fallopian tube, and fallopian tube is also known as oviduct. This fallopian tube is highly elastic, right? Or it is, I should say, it is contractile in nature. Besides that, in the towards the inner side of this fallopian tube, they are having some cilia-like projections, right? So such type of nature or such type of buildup will help in moving these ovum in the forward direction, that is towards the uterus. Fine. Besides that, when it is merging together, I said they are further running towards downside. Right. So in this particular way, in this structure, you can see that it is quite a swollen structure. So this bag-like structure, right, this structure over here is known as the uterus. So this uterus is somewhat triangular in shape, fine, and is receiving the ovum which is coming from the ovary. This uterus, you know what is the specialty of the uterus? It is highly muscular. It is elastic in nature. The muscles are highly contractile, right? And it is this site where the implantation of fertilized egg occurs. See, female reproductive system is not only meant for producing the ovum, rather it is also meant for holding pregnancy for a particular gestation period. That means the time period when the embryonic development is taking place. Fine. So where this embryo is present, or where is it developing? It is this particular site, that is the uterus. Towards the inner cavity of the uterus. This internal cavity of the uterus is known as the uterine cavity. Fine. So here you can now understand that they are actually present, or they are the fertilized egg is getting implanted in this particular part. Now I said that it is highly muscular, and is its thickening also thickness also varies. Fine. You know how it happens? See students, what happens here is, see, the ovary is releasing the ovum. Now what is the purpose of this particular function? This ovum, it should get fused with the sperms, and then what should happen? This fertilized egg, it should get implanted into the uterus. Fine. So this is meant for the process of reproduction. Now the point is, what will happen if the sperms are not present? Where this ovum will go? That is the point now, isn't it? So what happens exactly in the female reproductive system is, ovary is secreting the ovum, and besides that it is also secreting out some hormones. Which hormones? Do you have any idea? It is number 1 estrogen, number 2 it is progesterone. Now these hormones, they are released out, or they are secreted by the ovary after the release of ovum. and due to these hormones the new cells are actually divided, the new cells are produced. And where these cells are produced, or where they are present, where such cell division is taking place, it is taking place in this uterine wall, this internal wall of the uterus. Over there, there is the thickness is going to increase, and such a thickened wall is known as the endometrium. Why this is required? This thickness, the increase in thickness is required so that a female system can hold the growing embryo inside her body, and this is why this type of development is taking place. But on the other hand, when the sperms are not received, the ovum is going to be degenerated. Just imagine if such type of synthesis or such increase in internal wall takes place for all over her life, what will happen? This is not practical. It is not practically good for human health, isn't it? So what happens meanwhile, if the sperms are not received by the body, this uterine wall, the extra thickness, whatever has been increased here, these tissues will break down, right? The ovum, it will get degenerated, right? It is now not in the condition that it can get fertilized with the sperms. So ovum, it will be degenerated sidewise. This level of estrogen and the progesterone, that is the hormone secreted by ovary, they will fall, and further the tissues which are developed here inside the uterus, they will get break. And if the tissue is going to break, what will happen? Along with that, blood will also come out. So overall, this material will flow out of the female body in the form of menstrual flow. At this particular age, I mean at the during the puberty, right? This is one of the characteristic feature which is developing in the female body. That is the beginning of the menstrual cycles. So now you understand that what is this menstrual cycle? This menstrual cycle is regulating the release of ovum and its release from the body towards outside if it is not getting fertilized. So such type of rotation is actually known as the menstrual cycle, and the flow that is coming out, that is known as menstrual flow. What all things are present in the menstrual flow? Of course, the blood, right? These broken tissues of the uterus and the degenerated ovum. So this is how the menstrual flow is occurring in the female body. And such a flow, it takes place at a regular interval. This cycle is taking place, this is actually comprised of 28 days. It occurs, the cycle, overall time of the cycle is 28 days, but it varies from person to person. It may vary, that it is not necessary that it is always 28, and for each individual it is 28. This is not necessary. It can be 26 or it can be 30 or whatever, according to the type of female system, individual system, right? Now, besides this, the next part of this system is the cervix. You can see this narrow opening here at the end of the uterine tube. That opening is known as the cervix, right? And besides that, this narrow tube is the vagina. And vagina, we can say that it is the external cavity of the reproductive system, and further it opens outside the body through a pore or the opening which is known as the vulva, 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 right? So this is how the female reproductive system is functioning in the body, right? Besides this, now I'm saying that we are continuously using the term ovum here. So if we are concerned with the reproduction, the sexual reproduction, then now it is a time to understand the structure of the ovum. So let us just have a look over its picture and let us come to know about the fact or the structure related to the ovum. Now, if we compare this this female reproductive system with the male reproductive system, Or precisely I should say, if I compare this ovum with the sperm, then what difference can we make out here? Both are the gametes. Sperm is a male gamete and this ovum is a female gamete, right? So the difference between the nature of these two cells is that sperms are produced in millions. The number is in millions, right? The seminiferous tubules which are present in the testes, they are producing millions of sperms at one go, right? But in case of the female reproductive system, a single mature egg is released into the oviduct. And of course, this mature egg, in how much time period this mature egg is released out? It is in a month. We are discussing about human beings. So in such a case, a single mature egg is released out by each ovary in a month. That is, as I just said you earlier, that the menstrual cycle is of around 28 days, right? So every month, if I am using this term here, then what I mean by this is the length of the menstrual cycle. If this is of 28 days, then in this 28 days period, a single mature egg is going to be released. So is this see, the number of days are 28, but the number of egg is only 1. So how it is regulated? It takes that much period of time. Initially, the cells inside the ovary, they are getting activated, right? And then they are producing the egg, which is released out into the fallopian tube. So in that time period, this egg has been produced, or the ova has been produced. Now for the if it is not getting fertilized, then it is getting degenerated. So this it begins from the production of the egg and its release from the female body, the release of degenerated egg, right? So in short, what you need to understand here is that a single egg is produced in the female reproductive system, which is transferred into the oviduct or into the fallopian tube. Fine. Now further, comparatively, these ova is larger in size as compared to the sperms. Sperms, I said, it is the smallest cell in our body, right? But further, I can say that ova is, if when the ova is compared with the sperm, it is larger in size, and of course, it is non-motile. And whereas this sperms are motile, as they are having the tail. So these sperms, they tend to travel towards the non-motile ova. Now one question should come in your mind. If this ovum is non-motile, then how it is transferred from ovary to the fallopian tube and then fallopian tube to the uterus? So students, I explained you this thing, that the fallopian tube, the funnel, the end to where the that funnel shape opening is there, they are having some finger like projection. So initially the movement of the fallopian tubes, the fimbriae present at the end of the fallopian tube, they are transferring the ova into the fallopian tube, right? Secondly, now how it is moving inside this fallopian tube and reaching towards the moving towards the uterus? So it is possible because of the ciliated epithelial lining of uterus. I'm sorry, fallopian tube. Fallopian tube is lined with some cilia-like structures, and the movement of cilia is actually helping in the transfer of ova. I hope you understand what we mean by cilia. Cilia are hair-like structures which are present over the surface of the this lining, the internal lining of any particular structure in our body. Fine. As in the case of paramecium, you must have seen at its surface small hair-like structures are present, right? Similar structures are present inside the fallopian tube, that is over its inner lining. So movement of these particular cilia, they help in the transfer of the ova or the movement of the ova. Fine. Next thing is that it is required for the nourishment of the zygote. If the ova and sperm it gets fused, the resulting product is the zygote. Now, as it is getting developed, the nourishment is provided initially by the ova. Fine. So this is the important function, and of course besides that it is having a developed nucleus here, and this nucleus is required for the transmission of characteristics from the female mother, body or the mother's body to the next generation. So this is the another thing. Besides that, internally there is the presence of the cytoplasm and the other organelles. Right. Important thing in this structure is that it is surrounded by three membranes. And what these three membranes are? It is zona pellucida, which is the innermost lining of the or innermost membrane in the ova. After that, there is the vitelline membrane, and third there is the corona radiata. So these are the three main important membranes which are surrounding the this particular structure, right? And each membrane is having its own significance. Fine. We will not go in so much of depth about these membranes, but for your information, they are required for the specific functions in this structure. So when the sperms are present and the sperm and ovum, they are present at the same time, then they will get fused with each other, right? And then the zygote is produced. Now, important point again. If the sperms are present in the female body, you know what will be the lifespan of this cell? See, it is not like that once the sperms have entered the female's body and they will be present forever in her life, right? They are having a specific lifespan. That means it is something around, it is just few days actually, right? So if within this time period ova is released out, then the fusion will take place. Else the sperm will also get degenerated. Right. So this is how the important function is taking place. Now you can understand that if the sexual reproduction it has to occur, then the sperms and ova they have to get fused, and that is taking place at a particular time period only. Right. Now if the fertilization occur, what will happen further? Further, the development process will take place, and the zygote which is produced here, it will undergo the cell division cycles. There will be the rapid cell division, and then the fetus embryo. First the embryo is produced, and then the fetus, and then the new baby will be developed, and it will be delivered out from the female's body. So now how this fertilization occurs, that is the next point, and that we are going to study in the next session. Fine. So till then, go through your studies very well, and we'll continue in the next session. Till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.